Welcome to Fix on Politics, everybody. I am.
This is actually from 10 days ago, but I only learned about it today, so we're going to look at it.
Dan
just give me a bit. Maybe I don't even watch the entire thing. I actually just need to calm down a bit.
And with midterm elections just under 4 months away, conversations continue to swirl in the Democratic Party about the rise of more left-wing candidates, particularly those in New York City backed by Mayor Zoran Mamdani. Among those creating the most talk is Daria Liza Avila Chevalier, who pulled off an upset against popular Congressman. What do you attribute that to?
You know, I'm so deeply grateful and honored to have earned the support of so many people across this district, to know that we won the youth vote across all racial and ethnic backgrounds, that folks in Harlem, in particular black folks, came out and supported this campaign in a time where the Voting Rights Act is being gutted. And they decided that they wanted to have these values around making sure we have dignified.
There's also, I want to add on to what I said previously, like genuinely a lot of money in the propaganda campaign. I would fairly call it Hezbollah. I do think a lot of this is genuinely a Mossad operation. We know that Israel spends millions and millions of dollars doing this, the same way Russia does. But like, as I was talking about this woman right here, here's an account that was made, let me see, how many minutes ago? 3 minutes ago. The previous lady was right about the Arab stuff, and I'm tired of pretending she's not. This is a very, very common phrase from these people, by the way, from like this like cynical id pol shield. Tired of pretending she's not. It's a fundamentally conservative phrase because it defers to the myth of the silent majority. Everyone was pretending to be upset with what she said. We were pretending to find this woman racist. But I'm tired of pretending. I'm now going to be brave and come out and say the real thing everyone believes. Let's call it like it is. It's the same language racists use. Racists are tired of pretending multiculturalism works. They defer to the sentiment of the silent majority. Very common from conservatives, but also very common from these like, you know, Hasbara, like black idpol, ethno-narcissist, fake whatevers. Anyway, the constant merging of Arab Islam with leftism, pretending like it's leftist, just like that lady who wiped her behind with the American flag converted to Islam. Oh, they're talking about Daria Liza here. So I don't actually think this person right here is a person. I think this is a bot. But I think that like, and by the way, bots can do this now. Bots can create YouTube accounts, like find YouTube channels, and then navigate the steps necessary to create a bot on my site as well. This is absolutely a thing that modern bots can do, which to me is very scary, by the way. I really do think it's like an undermining of the social fabric, dead internet theory stuff, that bots are no longer just like in the comments, but can now organically develop accounts on secondary websites. I don't think any bots are being targeted specifically to my fucking site, my v.gg or whatever. I think that they can automatically scrape, they can respond to, there they are in chat. I'm not a bot, lol. They can respond to stuff that's being said as well. Modern bots are quite scary. But I don't think this is a real person. Anyway, I guess I wanted to talk about the I'm tired of pretending she's not thing. It's just worth remembering how much insincerity there is out there. I know, you're all bots, etc., etc. Do you like my little breakdown? I feel like I just explained why we see this so often. The I'm tired of pretending it's not. You know what I mean? I feel like I've seen that so many times, but I've never like it's a conservative sentiment there. Conservative sentiment there.
Housing, making sure our tax dollars are coming in, investing in our children and not in wars abroad, and making sure that we are fighting back against the immigration enforcement that we're seeing across the country.
Yeah.
And I'm just so honored to everyone who was part of this campaign, and grateful to each and every one of them, because it was really the work of organizing that helped us get to where we are. I think so often we're told that entrenched power is untouchable, and to know that people came out and talked to their neighbors and helped build that people power to help us get across the finish line is what's...
I'm glad you're explaining the actual thinking behind their positions and rhetoric. I feel like you glaze over it a lot. Well, the reason I often glaze over it is because I think it's fundamentally insincere. I don't think that real people really believe this. This is the reason why I don't really believe in democracy anymore. I feel like technology and capital control over media have advanced to a point where the overwhelming body of presented information is not only insincere, but insincere in a very coordinated and directed way. People have always lied in media. That's not new. I'm not suggesting that back in like 1880, the newspapers were telling the truth. The difference is that now basically all social media and mainstream media are like controlled by 5 people. And the methods by which information is disseminated have grown incredibly complex, but also very centralized.
So heartening to me.
It was a bit of a contentious race between the two of you. In the studio, we had a mini debate here in the studio, and it was a bit fiery and feisty at times, which is what we saw play out in the remaining weeks. Have you spoken to Mr. Espaillat since your win?
I have.
And how has that been?
It was positive. You know, I was very grateful that he offered to support with the transition, and so.
Do you think things would be better if the only political discussions were held in the town hall? Well, no, because then only old people would show up. They banned the bot. I banned the bot.
Just grateful to be able to have that line of communication.
Endorsements were huge in this, and Mayor Mamdani, I spoke to him just this week, and
You don't believe in democracy under any circumstances anymore? Why would you add in under any circumstances? That's kind of a silly thing to add. I never said that. I literally just said I don't believe in democracy because of the circumstances. Why would you then add regardless of the circumstances when I describe the circumstances that have led me to not believe in democracy?
I said, people called you a kingmaker for what you did. He didn't want to take any attention away from the 3 of you, Claire Valdez and Brad Lander, who won as well. But he said he was happy to lend his support. Do you think the mayor had something to do with it?
You know, I'm very grateful for the mayor's support, and he is somebody for whom I canvassed, actually, early on in his primary. And what I saw was the way that he used it as a vehicle to empower people and to bring them back into their politics. And that was what I strove to do in my own campaign, and bring people back into the democracy that we are owed, right? And be part of building that.
I wonder if people without strong beliefs will begin to type like bots as they're already easily influenced. I guess the point that I'm trying to get at here is that most people have known for at least a couple of years now that a majority of internet traffic, or at least a very large portion of it, is done by bots. In some parts of the internet, like Twitter, it is majority bots. We need to start acting as though that's true. We intellectualize it, we understand it, but if we really process that information, the real ramification of a majority of internet discourse being guided by an incredibly sophisticated modern bot, like a lot of these bots are old style bots, right? Not even modern AI LLM stuff, but very basic, like information scraping mass algorithm bot accounting, right? Like the kind of stuff you could do before LLMs took off. But now they're much, 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 much more powerful than that. I feel like we understand this is the case, but we have yet to really internalize it, and we have yet to treat it as though it's real. Unfortunately, democracy, in order for it to function, really does require a baseline minimum level of public education and being in touch with reality. And like those conditions have really been eroded. I don't support democracy under all conditions. For example, I certainly wouldn't support democracy for all in a system where nobody's literate. Do you have any idea how bad that would be? Imagine implementing a democracy in like 1100s England. First order, which witches are we burning? What do you like? What like just imagine if you gave limitless political power to illiterate, superstitious peasants. It would be fucking insane. Like, I'm not saying I defend feudalism morally on principle, but feudalism would probably be historically progressive compared to whatever insane populist 11th or like 12th century peasant democracy they would have cooked up. The fucking monarchy would be considered an improvement over it. Jesus Christ. So you're against Robespierre's opinion? Well, it's worth noting that Robespierre and the people around him were immediately invalidated by history. Like, they lost the argument. And also, the people actually making decisions, for the most part, adjacent to him, were well-educated post-Enlightenment elites. Different group of people. They might have LARPed about being like representatives for the people, but to the extent that they were, things went badly really, really quickly. Oh yeah, they LARPed. They LARPed. Unironically promoting mandatory voter education intelligence testing? Yeah. Yeah, yes. Yeah, you're suggesting that as though like it's a get. I've been publicly in favor of this for a while. I do not think the baseline conditions that allow democracy to produce outcomes are present anymore. I think they could be, but they are not right now. I really do think the fact that this country elected Trump twice is a fundamental indictment of democracy in a way that a lot of people are not like willing to reconcile or willing to work with. You know what I mean? Like I don't think it's just aberrant. I think it actually invalidates the premise. The whole point of democracy is that it's supposed to produce better outcomes than the alternative. Certainly we're not getting the outcomes we were promised. If this is the direction things are going in, I don't think so, buddy. I don't think so. Because it sounds authoritarian? Okay.
And so I was very grateful to have his support. I do think that it helped us reach more people. But I know that so many of our volunteers were the ones who really laid the groundwork by making sure that they were doing the work of talking to their neighbors, knocking on door after door, calling them, doing the 5-story walk-ups.
Yeah.
All of that is what really got us over the edge.
And the other big wins that night, of course, were Claire Valdez and Brad Lander. So how do you kind of see this, the three of you expected to win again in November and head to Washington? And people are calling it a mini coalition of sorts, right, heading to D.C. Have the three of you met, and do you consider yourself a coalition to head into D.C., and what will you bring?
Yeah, I'm very excited to work with both of them. I think they also have at the heart of their campaigns the working people of the city. And what we need is people in Washington who are going to fight for the working people across the country, making sure that the values that we hold, the values around making sure that our communities can lead dignified lives, and that working people.
Vaush is the last true liberal. I do genuinely consider what I'm saying to be liberal, by the way. The early liberal thinkers, the Enlightenment thinkers, believed that democracy could work on a pretext of certain values and institutionally implemented policies, like public education. Public education was advocated for because for a democracy to work, you obviously need the population to meet some baseline minimum level of education to understand what's going on. An abandonment of the underlying conditions that allow for these things to work means you have to reevaluate your prescriptions. Do you think that if you could take, I don't know, Robespierre or Thomas Paine or Adam Smith and send them back to like 3rd century BC China, do you think they would have just advocated for all of the same beliefs with no alterations whatsoever to their political prescriptions? They were explicitly post-Enlightenment thinkers. They based their beliefs off of the understanding that we were entering a transformational new world where people's values and the ability for them to offer inputs into the government had changed. And I believe that. I believe strongly in that project. I believe very, very deeply that the best system is one where you beget those eventual democratic outcomes. The problem, of course, is that there are things you can do to make those democratic outputs functionally invalid. I think most people would agree that you can't really call a country a democracy if the only place people get any information is through state media that is deeply propagandistic, right? Like, that's a very 101. Like, if you have a country where the only way you can legally obtain news is through the state and the state lies nonstop, I think most people would like legitimately acknowledge that's not really a democracy, right? The people voting at that point is just theater. People voting is a like a like a play. It's like a rote procedural theatrical process. It's KFAB, right? We're LARPing because the democratic input, the voting, gives legitimacy to the intended outcome. People vote in North Korea, but like, we all know that's not fair. People voted for Hitler. But if you voted no, there were Nazi Party officials watching you do it. It's not like, rocket science. We know there are conditions under which a democratic output is invalid. I would just argue that we've reached a point in this country where the outputs are largely invalid. It's one of the reasons why I don't really care that much if Elon Musk helped Trump cheat in 2024. You know what I mean? Like, maybe the numbers were fiddled with. In my mind, the real number fiddling is the fact that Elon bought Twitter and then immediately changed the algorithms in it, banned a bunch of left-leaning journalists and changed it. Like, is that not also illegitimate? Let me put it this way. Here, this is the fundamental question that I ask you, and I really want you to reconcile with this, okay? Everyone knows that it's cheating if a billionaire uses their money to alter a system and flip a vote. Like, you vote for a Democrat and then the billionaire, through their machinations, flips that vote from a Democrat to a Republican. Everyone knows that's cheating. Is it not also cheating if that billionaire uses the exact same amount of money and effort to instead blanket the news waves with a bunch of lies that convinces a person to vote for a Republican when they would have voted for a Democrat? The outcome is the same. The money invested, the relationship between money, power, and outcome is the same. The only difference is that it's done through a so-called legitimate output. My argument is that legally these two are distinct things. I recognize legally they're always going to be distinct, but in terms of outcome, they aren't. They're the same. They're exactly the same. The input and output are the same. The only difference is the method, and the method in this case is relevant only as a legal technicality that you can use to determine whether you can go after somebody in like a court of law. The input and output are the same, therefore functionally they are the same to me in terms of them existing as an indictment on the legitimacy of democracy. I think that the airwaves are largely bought out, and as a consequence, you can basically treat tens of millions of votes as, well, not legally fraudulent, but ethically fraudulent in the sense that they're a product of dishonesty. I'm sorry, I'm rambling here. In medical practice, there's a thing called informed consent. A patient must have full and clear information to be responsible as a decision. I think that's a good way of framing it, that we might have consent technically in a democracy, but not informed consent. That in order for a medical practice to be legitimate, the doctor can't lie to you about what it's going to do. Like, if a doctor says, do you consent to this procedure? And then they do a totally different procedure to you, and they lied to you about it, that's obviously not informed consent. If you went in for a root canal and then they took out your liver, that's obviously not informed consent. And I think that in democracy, it's more or less the same thing, right? It's not a problem that you can fix perfectly. I'm not saying you could ever build a system where nobody ever lied in politics, but I think there are a lot of systemic factors weighing on the outcome here. Really bad ones. Sorry, I know that I've rambled about this a lot in the past. I just want people to understand that I'm acting out of what I consider to be a deference towards and respect for liberal democracy. And by liberal democracy, I mean liberal politically, capital L liberal democracy. In spite of everything, I do revere to a large extent the Enlightenment thinkers and their beliefs, their optimism that an average person could, for the first time in human history, get to decide for themselves what government would do. It is a radical proposition now, even now, and it definitely was back then. Anyway, sorry, I guess I've gotten my my refresher a little bit. I'll just take a look at this. I'll just take a look at the clip. Where's the Daria Lisa clip? The clip we were looking at, not the, oh, it's gone forever, whatever.
Have their rights protected around democracy, around being able to stay in their homes.
Yeah.
That, I think, is at the core of the fight that we're waging in Washington. I'm excited to fight with them.
And before I get to some issues, I want to ask you about other Democrats who were quick to react about what happened on primary night, right? For example, Josh Gottheimer was one of them. In the past, Tom Suozzi, a Democrat from Long Island, had said DSA should have their own party. What do you make of other Democrats now coming out and saying, well, this isn't representative of us as a whole?
Well, I'm very excited to be the Democratic nominee. I'm very excited to know that the working people of this district voted for the things that we were running on, right, around affordable housing, around making sure that we were abolishing ICE, making sure that we're investing our tax dollars in our children here. And those are the values of the Democratic base, not only here in New York, but across the country. And we see that with election after election across the country, whether that was with Chris Rabb in Philadelphia, Dr. Hamawi in New Jersey, or with Melat Kiros in Denver. And there are so many more races like Donovan McKinney's in Michigan that I'm very excited to watch closely, and Justin Pearson's in Tennessee. I think what we're seeing is more and more Americans coming out to say this is what Democrats want.
But how do you envision yourself and what you view as your views? When I'm listening carefully, is it far off from the Democratic Party, or do you believe that they were outliers and shouldn't have said those things?
I think the Democratic base, like so many, like myself included.
So nationalizing social media and the news should be added to the DSA platform? I don't think nationalizing these things are going to fix them. Do you think that nationalizing the news and allowing Trump to control it directly would improve things? No. My problem isn't just capital. It's a synchronicity between capital and government, a total infiltration of capital interests in government. To this end, sorry for playing the hits. The only solution is socialism. or at the very least, a mass disempowerment of the capital class, which socialism would achieve. Is this achievable in the short term? No. That's why we're destined for failure and mass death. But maybe we can build a better world after.
Abandoned by the establishment Democrats, who have really been serving in many ways corporate interests instead of the working people of this country. And I think what the Democratic base is showing right now is that they want fighters who understand the struggle that they're going through and who are going to go to Washington and fight to make sure that we can lead dignified lives.
Yeah.
And I think for so many who I've yet to have conversations with, I just ask that they withhold judgment about who I am and the type of leadership that I bring to Washington until they've had
I'm really looking forward to her career. It's kind of like the first time we've had a crazy Twitter lefty become a house. I'm unironically like super duper hard rooting for her. Like, she said stuff I disagree with. I'm still hardline rooting for her because I want to see like how productively that like political ball of that ball of antagonism and like internet politics, how well it can be channeled into real disciplined positive outcomes,
conversation with me.
I asked you when you were here for the mini debate of Hakeem Jeffries should be speaker, and you said it was too early because you were focused on the race. The race is over. Should he be speaker?
I'm still working to build out, the structures of co-governance that I'm so excited to model for others across the country, but for this district in particular, and to have those conversations with the community, because I think the first vote that I make will set the tone for the kind of leadership that this district will have, and I want to make sure that I'm making that vote with the considerations of the community in mind.
Have you spoken to him?
Adult converts are wacky. Oh, I think they're fucking insane. So let's see how it goes, huh?
So I've spoken to many people who are in Washington right now, and I'm just very grateful for those conversations.
But him in particular, you're already a politician. In not answering the question, did you speak to him in particular?
So I have not spoken to him yet, but I've spoken to a number of folks across, the party, and I'm just very excited to work with so many.
Let me ask you overall, kind of on some of these issues. Of course, Israel was a big one. One of your staunchest positions in this campaign was against Israel and what they're doing in Gaza. You called it a genocide. So when you go to D.C., is it something you want to bring up right away? And how do you kind of envision that playing out?
There are a number of bills that I'll sign on to on day one, and one of them is the Block the Bombs Act, because I do believe
Vaush has been full doomer for a long time now. This is new. I really don't think what I've said here is doomer. I think that like doomer is a mentality, not a set of predictions about the future. And I just don't feel as pessimistic about the future as a lot of people in chat seem to. I think the real danger is engaging in behavior represented by like some of the more, let's be real here, like Zionist aligned centrist Democrat channels. You like Pacman or Brian Tyler Cohen, or some of the people in Midas Church and Pod Saves, where you like lure people along with a chain of Donald Trump has finally met his match. It's over for him. And then like you do years and years of that coverage. It rakes up views because people want like news about the enemy getting epically owned or whatever, makes you angry, makes you feel like righteous or whatever. And then like everything gets worse anyway. How many like Trump is finished videos have you seen being pushed by these channels? Hundreds, maybe thousands? And what happens? The country gets raped to death anyway. Trump is right now like molesting kids on Little St. James 2. No end to it, I think that the real like doomer is what happens to people when they realize they've been lied to like that. Like the real doomer is when you get strung along by that narrative, the idea, oh, don't worry, people will wake up soon, everyone's going to come to their senses soon, and then you realize, wait, hold on, no they're not, this isn't getting fixed. And then you realize this whole time no one ever had a plan, and then you just crash the fuck out and you're apathetic. That to me is the real doomer. It's what happens when you embrace apathy because no one's offered you a solution. I tell you what I do and don't believe in, what I do and don't think is worth doing. I'm not apathetic.
That what's happening is a genocide, and I believe that it's a moral injury to the American people that our tax dollars are being used to enact this genocide. And so I think this plays out in every single policy decision that we will make, right? If you value life, that is going to reflect in how you think about health policy. That's going to play out in how you think about housing. It's going to play out in how you think about childcare. And so if you cannot stand against a genocide, right, it makes me wonder whether you can stand for the things that working people in this country need, whether that's healthcare, housing, a Green New Deal. All of those things are deeply important to the American people.
And housing is a huge one here locally, of course, in New York City. And there was a study that came out this week that New York City is more expensive than ever. And people were really hoping for the mayor to change that. He's 6 months in. Many people saying give him a chance. How can Congress get involved in kind of bringing down the cost of housing? How would you do so specifically for folks in your district?
You know, one of the other bills that I'm really excited to sign on to on day one is the Tenant Rights to Organize Act, because currently only NYCHA residents have the federally protected right to organize. And we know that when folks have the right to organize, they are more...
Yeah, we know she's based. Sorry. I don't even remember what I was talking about. I'm so out of it. It's so hot in this room right now. It's so cool. Crazy. Twitter lefties finally have a voice in Congress. Hello. 1 second, folks. Wait, that wasn't the mute button. My friends are going to go hang out without me because unfortunately I have job obligations. Okay, what was I talking about?